Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
I am recording this video a little bit late here. They finally fixed the gaskets on the dropship. We jumped to systems in the course of a very short period. And let's talk about the blood spirits here. It's a thing that came up before I left for Terra. We saw a few of those machines pop in the shop, mostly from other clan customers, trying to get them to work again because they were in various states of disrepair. Clan Blood Spirit is an odd duck, something that we basically haven't really heard of in the inner sphere, and they're not one of the most prolific clans either. This won't be a full review of all the mechs they've ever built or all the configuration of all the mechs that they have, but we'll go over the 4 main Blood Spirit machines and go in depth on the ones that don't have too much configurations to them. So let's get into it. Clan Blood Spirit is one of the original 20 clans founded by Nicholas Kerensky, but it's also the one which does not have a totem animal. It was meant to represent the camaraderie and the esprit de corps of the SLDF and the new clans. That didn't go very far, obviously. They did start out by sending a thing that they called Ilchi to the other clans as ambassadors, trying to build a rapport with everybody. But after Operation Klondike, really for every clan, it was we go our own way, and Big Dick Nick was at the top with Clan Wolf, really calling the shots. When the Wolverines decided that the set of rules that were put out were maybe not the best and a bit too extreme, well, they got curb stomped, and that old camaraderie thing really went out the window. From that point on, Clan Blood Spirits really kept to themselves. Like, really, really bad there. Like sending greeting cards every 10 years to remind you that you're alive, kind of keeping to yourself. Kind of like the really deep periphery states and planets that sometimes show up for trading in the actual periphery state and never go further than that. The problem is none of the clans could really afford that. And that's not just the Blood Spirits. All the clans altogether, at a low population count, their planets were generally resource-starved. They had fairly poor management, where they probably should have cooperated more and built things together rather than all go their own ways. And that's all what the Clan Blood Spirit actually said at first in regards to what they should be doing. As things went on, the third Spirit Con, Shayna Bocus, I'm not quite sure, and it's not a name that I've seen in other clans, enacted a bunch of policies to reduce waste even more than what the other clans were already doing, and they added on top of it a bunch of austerity measures when building new weapons and new equipment. To be quite blunt, the Blood Spirits didn't give a damn about anybody else, and the only people who actually seemed to tolerate them was Kindra Smite Jewel from the Fire Mandrels. When the Boon clan is the only one that actually wants to support you, things get really weird. Kindra Smite Jewel did give the Blood Spirit Omni technology in exchange for some colonization rights on some of their planets. And later on, during Operation Revival, or the build-up to Operation Revival, they traded some of their warships for second-line mechs from Clan Snow Raven. That's a very, very bad trade because warships are actually worth a lot more than a second-line mechs. And even doing that, it only gave them minor wins here. They did win the first placement trials they were in, but after that, they were outmatched by just about every other clan. There's probably much more to talk about in terms of Clan Blood Spirits, but let's leave it at that for now. Basically, that's what led to their ultimate fate. They tried to stay isolated, they supported some policies that kind of backfired on them, and then what remained of the Homeworld clans decided that they no longer wanted to waste resources with Clan Blood Spirits. End of the story, in 3085, the Blood Spirits had been annihilated, and Clan Star Adder buried their genetic repository under ice and slag with an orbital bombardment. While the Blood Spirits were living in their own bubble, they didn't make a whole lot of new mechs, but the ones that they did were rather decent, at least in my opinion. In 2907, they made their masterpiece with the Blood Kite. The common question with the Blood Kite is how does it work and how does it walk? Yes, it looks really weird, but as an engineer, I broke one down to the basic components. Actually, it's split out in front of us in the hangar, and we just noticed how fantastically well built it was. It's a marvel of engineering and efficiency. All the components are really, really rugged and really hard to break once you get into it. And whenever there's a problem with any of them, you can just open it up, pop it out, and pop a new one back in. Yes, the configuration and how it's set up is a little weird, and if you need to get an actuator kit for it, it's going to be a non-standard one. But if you were, let's say, producing 100 of them a year, which is reasonable on a regular factory, you'd have those actuator kits ready to go. The Blood Kite is a big boy at 85 tons, and you'll see two body kits for it. Both of them are from the original designer, but I do prefer the one we see here and that I have on the cover picture. It uses very little advanced tech overall, except for an endosteel chassis to save about 4 tons of weight. It uses a basic 255 Fusion engine to go up to 54 kilometers per hour, which is fine on an 85-ton mech, and you have 3 jump jets so you can move 90 meters up, down, sideways, however you want, which again adds to the mobility of the machine, making it perfectly fine. You get 21 double heat sinks to keep yourself cool, because you will need it with the weapon loadout on it, and you get 15 tons of standard plates to protect you from arm, which is usually enough on an 85-ton mech. Good things come in 3 when you look at the Blood Kite. You get 3 assemblies of 15 rack LRM coupled with a 4-tube SRM next to it. So you have very good long-range support, and since those are Clarn LRM, you can still shoot them at short range anyways. They're still going to work, and those SRMs are going to be great against, well, armor as usual, but since you're going to turn the enemy armor into a slag, when you get into closer range, well, those SRMs are going to be able to exploit the holes that you've made. You have a decent ammo load, so you can keep a constant barrage with all of those weapons as well. And what you have as a, well, first line of defense, I would say actually, is a head-mounted, torso-mounted, and arm-mounted ER large laser with pinpoint accuracy at decent enough range. Those are small lasers in a way, well, not small lasers, but small-ish components. When you look at the Clan ER large laser, they can fit in just about anywhere you need them to, which makes them very, very nice. That design fit the austerity measures that were put down, but the Blood Kite Mark II drops that pretense and goes with as advanced equipment as it possibly could at the time. It drops all of the weapons that you add on the original one and only keeps 2 of the 15 rack LRMs with Artemis 4 guidance in this case. Your main guns are now a trio of ERPPC, and with the amount of heat sinks that you have on there, you should be able to shoot them pretty steadily with a little fear of overeating. Of course, if you shoot both the missiles and the ERPPCs, you're going to start eating up real quick, and with the ammo of those missiles being in there, be careful because that could cause a internal ammo explosion. You also get a nice little light active probe to give you some detection ability on top of it, but it's not a priority, and honestly, maybe they could have put an ER small laser instead. Clan Blood Spirit was late to the game with their Omnimechs, and the first one they really made was the Stooping Hawk in 2970. The base design is actually not even from Clan Blood Spirit. They stole, well, trialed for Clan Ghost Bear's Sun Bear, and with the knowledge that they traded with Clan Fire Mandrill, they were able to build this Stooping Hawk design. This mech is built to Blood Spirit standard, is meant to be rugged, it's meant to be reliable, and it doesn't use that much advanced technology. And by that, I really mean nothing super advanced. The core of the machine is a good old Cortac 275 with the serial numbers filed off on it and called something else, but it's basically a Cortec 275, giving this 55-ton mech a speed of 86 kilometers per hour. I'll see if I can get more of the pods and more of the gun cam footage for the Stooping Hawk over time. But right now, let's just talk about the primary configuration because that's all I really got to see. It's pretty simple. You start with a good old Ultra 10 class autocannon in your side torso with 3 tons of reload, so you'll have a very decent time shooting at people. Each arm mounts a ER medium laser and a medium pulse laser, giving you decent enough range and good enough firepower and accuracy. For increased mobility, you also get 5 jump jets, so you can vault about 150 meters. This is basically a 275 Mafiosi with a little bit of fancy equipment in it. Probably a kind of thing that we'd like to buy around here in the periphery, even though our Flying Badgers kind of do the same kind of job. After a dry spell in 3065s, well, things were going bad for a lot of the minor clans, especially those that were not involved in the clan invasion. If they had been involved, things would have gone bad as well, but in different ways. Just how it is. Clan Fire Mandrill and the Blood Spirits collaborated together to bring us the Crimson Langur, which helped bolster their forces as they were getting annihilated by the other clans. This one is not simple and cheap, but it's still easy to repair as far as an Omnimech goes. It also features some of the best comm equipment on the market in a full head ejection system to try to protect the pilots. All the actuators on the thing as well are heavily protected and heavily armored, so battle armors have a harder time getting to them. I do think it's a nice setup overall, but we'll see where I have a few reservations. As an Omnimech, the Crimson Langur can bring 15 tons of pods on its 50-ton frame, which is about, a little bit less than a third of its weight. It's a little bit low as term of what you can do with it. It uses 10.5 tons of standard plates and an endo steel chassis to save on some weight, but you still get 13.5 tons or 13 tons of your weight right there. You then put a massive 350 XL engine to give you a top speed close to 120 kilometers per hour, matching things like the Grendel. And I think that's where the Langur kind of has issues. Yes, it's fast, but you don't need to be that fast on a 50-ton mech, especially if you're going to be used as a trooper, which is what this mech was meant to be. Just using that, you would be saving a little bit more space for more pods. And using standard plates on this thing might not be the best idea. Using ferrofibrous would be easier, especially if you're mass producing it for mechs like the Fire Mandrills, machines, or your Stooping Hawk. Once again, this is the kind of mech that I would like more battle ROM and gun cam footage of in order to give a full review of the various configurations. Primary is a laser boat using the ER large laser, which is the favorite weapon of Clan Blood Spirit, coupled with a pair of heavy medium lasers, all tied to a targeting computer, giving you good accuracy on the ER large laser and standard accuracy on those heavies. You get 4 extra double heat sinks to keep the heat down, and you can jump 150 meters with 5 jump jets. You get a light active probe on top of all of that to give you a little bit more precision and the ability to find the battle armors that you're meant to be fighting. There's another configuration that I had the chance to mess with, and that was Bravo configuration, which is meant to hunt down battle armors. To do that, it uses an ATM-9. Probably would be nice to put an IATM-9 if you had some of that fancy society tech. To back this up, you also get 3 ER medium lasers, giving you a very nice medium range punch and enough punch to go through at least 1 battle armor per firing cycle. On top of that, you get 210 meters of jump range, and you can find those sneaky battle armors using a light active probe. I am kind of liking this one quite a bit. Next up is a pretty fun one, because this one, while it was built originally by the Blood Spirits as they were falling apart in the 3070s, well, they sold the design to Clan Wolf and to, a few other people. That means that the Crimson Hawk at 25 tons is probably the most common Blood Spirit mech that you will see out there. It was built as a stopgap with very heavy firepower and requiring very minimal resources to build. It's not meant to be a great mech, but it does what it's supposed to do. The machine's actuator are built to resist battle armor swarms once again. I think that was a big scare of the blood spirits at the time, and I kind of understand why, because they can be pretty rough at times. But the design itself is not super rugged. It's not easy to repair. It's not as well built as other previous Blood Spirits machine, and it's quite likely because the engineers building it were doing it in a hurry. 5 tons of ferrofibrous armor protect the little bugger, and it can only go up to 86 kilometers per hour using a 125 XL engine. This is very slow for a 25-ton mech, but this is what it was built for. It was built to be a slow and purposeful machine that can also jump 150 meters, which increases its mobility enough that it's very decent, and it's cooled by 10 double heat sinks, which is barely enough. For weapons, the resource-starved Blood Spirits used a Series 7K and a Series 7J ER large laser. The reason why they did that is so they could actually build twice the number of machine using the parts that they had in stock. Replacing one for the other is not really difficult, and if you're the proud owner of a Crimson Hawk, you can probably just use Series 7Ks on both of them, Series 7J on both of them, as long as you get some tech to look it up. There's a few different marks that were built for it, mostly from export series. And the Crimson Hawk Mark II is the end result of the design using a pair of Series 4D2 heavy large lasers instead of ER large lasers. The pilot will die of heat exhaustion, but you've got no ammo to blow up, so at least you'll be very well protected there. And it's probably one of the mech with the highest damage delta for its size, until you shoot both of them, shut down, and you get blown up. Clan Wolf in Exile bought a whole bunch in 3075, and they made changes to it in order to fit their needs a little bit better. This one has an ER large laser taken out and replaced with a Series 3K ER medium laser, but the saved weight is used to replace the jump jet with improved jump jets to give you more jump speed. The Mark IV is probably the last mech ever designed by Clan Blood Spirit. It uses a targeting computer to link all weapons together, and you get an ER large and a pair of ER medium lasers for decent brawling opportunities. A heavy flamer is also put on there to take out infantry and vehicles at the cost of some of the jump capability, so you can only go about 90 meters. I do think it's still pretty decent. At this point, maybe remove the jump jets altogether and buff up the weaponry a little bit more, but it's quite functional for what it's meant to be. Now let's go into the really weird stuff. Some of our buddies in Clan Seafox bought the rights to the Crimson Hawk and wonder if they could make it actually fly. They finalized it by making it a Vito Lamb, which is basically a battle mech that can turn into an helicopter, which shared some design specification with the original Crimson Hawk. Was it stupid? Possibly. Does it work? Well, from what I've seen, it remarkably well. Is it selling well? Well, I'm not quite sure on that end. But 2 ER large lasers on a thing that can fly around, drop down, and reposition properly is quite successful. Next up is another odd sighting from Clan Snow Raven and their Raven Alliance. Raiders bearing insignias from Clan Blood Spirit and Fire Mandrels have been hitting them recently, and they've told us about a Blood Kite with variable configurations, quite possibly an Omni version of the Blood Kite. I've not been able to get my hands on one. I'm going to Terra, and I might be able to buy one off Snow Raven people that are over there if they've captured one and are ready to sell it. We'll see how it is. We've heard about them. They're causing trouble. Let's keep an eye out. Clan Blood Spirit is really one of those clans we barely hear about and have any serious information about in our depth of the periphery. They remained hidden, they were confined to doing their own thing, and rather than spending time and resources on growing and evolving, all they really did was keep getting angrier and angrier. The Blood Kite is still quite popular, and you might see some around, especially in Clan second line units. The Stooping Hawk has been seen in Clan Goliath Scorpion's tome on, and the Crimson Hawk is with the Wolves and, well, just about everybody else that bought it. So at least there is that. I don't know if anybody's bought the rights to build the Blood Kite again, but that might be a good idea in the long run. So I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day. I thank you for listening to me for so long, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.